Can I just welcome you to this EMCC Global GPS Dialogue? We're so pleased that Damian could be with us today. Damian is a master coach with 30 years experience in 60 different countries. He's just got his master practitioner a month ago as well from EMCC Global, so we're so super delighted he can add that to his long list of accreditations, including he's an EMCC supervisor, and he trains supervisors as well as being an author of multiple books and articles. Damian, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm going to hand you straight over.
Great, thanks for the invitation. Great to be here. And in this space, my goal is to have a conversation and dialogue with everyone. So this is supposed to be interactive. I know that I don't know you, but I am very tired of being in front of Zoom every day for many hours. So I think it's important when we volunteer our time to keep learning and developing ourselves, we do it in a way that is interactive. And my goal is that we can all learn from each other today. My accent, if you're wondering, is from Argentina. So, but I live in Los Angeles. That is not a Los Angelino accent. I have been here for 30 years. And today I want to explore together how coaching supervision of teams is different than individual and group supervision. And I did this similar presentation at the EMCC 28th conference. I don't know if any of you had the chance to be there. So if you were there and you were in my presentation, it's going to be a little bit similar, but the difference is that here we have different people, so we can learn from different colleagues. We're going to be spending time in small groups discussing some of the points. So what my plan for today is to share with you 3 different competency models for team coaching and see how team coaching supervision is similar and different than individual and group supervision. So I have a brief presentation that I want to share with you, focus on competency models for team coaching. And then we will jump to work in small groups and discuss our own personal experiences. And so I wish we had time for everyone to introduce yourself, but why don't we do that virtually? Why don't you use the chat room and let us know your name, where you are calling us from, and if you're a supervisor or not, just so we get a sense of who is in the room today. So if you want to spend 1 minute just going to the chat room and write down your name, where you are calling from, and if you're a supervisor, individual, group, or team coach supervisor, so we get a sense of who is here today. Meanwhile, you do that, I am going to share my screen. I'm going to share like a 10 minutes brief lecture when I want to introduce you some competency models. You may be familiar with some of them, some may be new to you. But before I do that, I want to just be sure that we are all in the same page in terms of understanding what is supervision. And I really support EMCC position of making it mandatory for all coaches so they have a reflective space. So supervision is not telling people what to do. Supervision is an opportunity to reflect on our work. So I like to separate the word supervision. So with the supervision, we separate, we look at supervision, at our work from like a different place, and we have a different vision of what we are doing, we can grow and we can develop. The supervision is not about guidance or telling people what to do. That's the way that most people think about supervision, but it's a reflective space. And as supervisors, we create this reflective space in different ways when we work with one-on-one, when we work with a group, and when we're supervising team coaches. Now, there is a possibility that at the same time that we supervise team coaches one-on-one, or we supervise team coaches in a group. So you see there are different possibilities. But there are differences. And as supervisors, we pay attention to different things. When we're one-on-one in individual supervision, we create a space where the supervisee can learn and reflect on the work that he or she is doing with a case, with a client, or some things that may come up. When we work in group supervision, we have the opportunity for people to learn from each other. So I enjoy group supervision very much because it's an opportunity to learn not only from one person, but everybody learn from each other. So one person bring a case, and we discuss the case in a group format, but the person who bring in the case learn from the experience, but sometimes other participants from the group learn even more than the person bringing the case. So the idea is in group supervision, somebody bring a case and we engage and discuss the case and we all learn from that case. And usually we have a couple of hours from the whole group, maybe 2 or 3 people will have the opportunity to bring cases and explore issues. So we rotate who is bringing the case. Now in team coaching supervision is a little bit different, because in team coaching, we are going to be exploring some unique issues related to teams. So it's a requirement for a team coach to have some specific training. And EMCC is offering now a team coaching credential that's having pioneers in that, offering that credential. As many of you know, I am the past global president of the International Coach Federation. So I have been very involved also in developing credentials and supporting people to get credentials. I do believe that doesn't matter. You have an ICF, EMCC, any credential that tells the world that you are following ethical standards and that you have some training, that you have experience. So I am very strong in terms of coaches holding credentials to show to the world that these credentials are available. So I always like to support people in getting that. And now the International Coach Federation is also going to come up with a team credential at the end of the year. And what is interesting is that when I was the global president, I got trained for first time, the first training of supervision in the Americas was in 2013 through Coaching Supervision Academy. So that was the first time that the supervision was brought to the Americas, and I went through the first cohort. And I thought, okay, I think every coach should receive supervision because it's the importance of the reflective space. And I got into trouble because I got a lot of people who didn't think that making it mandatory was the best way to go. And so these days still is not mandatory for ICF to get supervision for coaches. It's recommended and people get units of education, but it's not mandatory like for EMCC. And I support EMCC position. And that was even before I started training supervisors, that came up later. And so I have been now training supervisors virtually globally, and we have already, I'm getting close to 20 cohorts, and half of them in Spanish. So I am very proud to have around 100 coaching supervisors in Latin America and Spain, and in the US who speak Spanish and who are providing supervision services in Spanish. So with that in mind and with that context, I want to share with you that the ICF also, for first time, is going to make mandatory supervision of team coaches. So this is different, and that's new, and that's interesting. And that's the reason why there is a lot of interest now, because all supervisors will be able to offer that service, and that for all team coaches who are members of ICF will be mandatory. So that I do believe it's an opening to understanding the importance of supervision. And I'm sharing that in the context of what's happening in the world around coaching supervision and what are the trends. At the EMCC conference, there were several sessions. There was a whole track on team coaching, and there were several sessions about team coaching supervision, what I found really fascinating and new, because that have not happened before. So I think that today we are following up of some of these trends. And what I want to share first of all is I want you to be familiar with the EMCC team coaching competency model. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but I want to share that with you so you're familiar with it. And then I'm going to share the ICF one, and then I'm going to share with you the AC one. So you are all seeing what are similarities and differences. And then we are going to go to small groups to share your experiences, if you have any experience as a team coach or a team coach supervisor, and what caught your attention about these competencies when you see these 3 different models. What do you think about similarities, differences, and what are your reactions? So I want you to, and by the way, this PowerPoint is going to be available. If you want to get it, let me know. I will send it to you. We're happy to share with you the PowerPoint with the 3 models. And so just pay attention, because in a few minutes, we're going to go to small groups to discuss what I'm going to be sharing. Any questions before I share with you the competencies? Any questions, comments, reactions from anybody?
I mean, I suppose this is quite new for the ICF, or as far as I'm concerned, because historically the ICF did not insist on supervision. And especially I worked a lot in Asia, and it was unknown in Asia that after you'd done a training that you needed to be in supervision. And I suppose one of the things that I wonder about is how much are the psychodynamics spoken about what might be happening in any team? How much of that is in the training about the supervisor being able to work with the dynamics that might be going on in the group or on in the team alongside the material they're bringing?
That's a great question. And I think supervision is still unknown for many coaches worldwide. It's very unknown in Asia, in Latin America, even in the Americas. I think that 5 years ago, we started the Americas Coaching Supervision Network with Lily Ciro, with a goal to bring awareness of coaching supervision in the Americas. So now we have been doing it for 5 years. We have monthly sessions, free sessions, if anybody is interested. And our goal was just to bring awareness, but still many coaches don't know what is supervision. And definitely for ICF, it's not mandatory yet. It's recommended, and people can get units of education. But I really applaud EMCC that even it's in part of the ethical standards. It's included ethical standards, having supervision. Now, I agree with you too, that I do believe that in supervision, we pay attention to relationships. So in supervision, we do spend more time looking at relationship compared to coaching. Because as supervisor, we want to see what is the relationship between the coach and the client. And what is the relationship in the here and now between the coach and the supervisor. So because we're interested in relationships, psychodynamic models help us to understand relationships better. Not to be psychologists, but to understand and to apply some of the distinctions and the concepts from psychodynamic that help us to understand relationships. For example, transference and contra-transference. What happened when the coach idealizes the supervisor, what is projecting on the supervisor, or when the client projects on the coach. So I do believe that effective trainings that train supervisors include psychodynamic models and theories to help understand the relationships. And I do believe that most of the programs approved by EMCC that are called ESQA, ESQA is the accreditation for coaching supervision programs from EMCC. I would say that most of them include that as part of the training. Thank you for your question. Okay, so let me share with you, and then there will be more time for sharing with each other and for questions. So let me go briefly. I want to do this brief. I want to share with you these competency models for people who are not familiar with them. And I will be curious to see what are your reactions. Okay, so the idea is that the EMCC team coaching competency model has 12 different competencies. And the team coach supervisor need to be working with this model and need to bring it to conversation as part of the work of supervision in terms of the reflection of the work of the team coach. So I believe that in terms of team coaching, particularly if you're going to be supervising or receiving supervision, you need to know and understand this competency model to provide a framework and a context from where to work. So for example, one of the competencies is about multi-stakeholder contracting. What happened, and as people who are here who are supervisors, you know, many times the issues that coaches bring to supervision, individual, group, or team coaching, are related to contracting. Lack of clarity, not following up. So contracting is a key issue in supervision. So that will come up sooner or later in team coaching supervision, what happened with contracting, how whatever is happening now, if there are some challenges or difficulties, are related to that contracting. Diagnostics, the team coach being able to diagnose and see how are strengths and weaknesses from the team coach, working with a team, what tools they are going to be using. what methods are going to be using, what is the concept or how the team coach understands team coaching effectiveness. So the team coach should have a model or a framework to follow or to understand or to be able to support the team. Being familiar with system thinkings and group dynamics, and being aware of different models and approaches, and being able to manage the process. What happened with the team coaching process from contracting to evolving to closing. Or other competency from a team coach is being able to experiment and adapt to different circumstances, partnering, building the relationship with all of these stakeholders. Sometimes they work, and I do believe that the best practice in team coaching is working with a colleague, a team of 2 people working together. 4 eyes, 4 ears can be more effective than just 1 person. Also, in terms of developing the business, developing their own team coaching practice, receiving supervision and reflective practice on team coaching, understanding self and development and keep learning and growing as a team coach, and self-care and resilience. That I do believe nowadays, post-COVID, I don't know if call it post-COVID because people are still getting COVID, but we're hearing more and more post-COVID leadership, post-COVID coaching, post-COVID, because the world is a different world. And resilience is one of the key skills that we need to demonstrate as leaders, as coaches, as supervisors. So how we use resilience in our work, and here in team coaching is a really good place to go and look into that. Now, these are the 2 competencies from the EMCC framework. If we go to the ICF framework, they're applying the same 8 coaching competencies to team coaching. So there is a document where you can compare the individual to the team coaching competencies. So for example, in terms of ethical practice, being sure that the team coach is aware of the differences between team coaching and consulting and facilitation, and being able to have a mindset where there is able to work with the team dynamics, looking at patterns, engaging in their own supervision. That was one of the last supervisions in the EMCC model. Working with contracting and maintaining agreements, creating trust and safety in a team. Psychological safety is a key distinction, and that is a little bit different than trust in general. So I think that psychological safety, we spend a lot of time talking about psychological safety when I train team coaches and team coaching supervisors, how you create that. And then maintaining presence, how is that connection, and particularly this is related to active listening and evoking awareness. How the team create new learning, and this is one of the differences also on team coaching, is how the team learns and the role of the team coach in supporting the team to learn. We're talking about this is in a different order related to active listening, everything that the team coach needs to listen, but there are multiple levels. And finally, facilitating client growth, how the team coach helps the team to grow and keep learning. Now, there is a document available where the ICF distinguished under team development all of the categories: team building, training, consulting, mentoring, facilitation, and team coaching are very different activities, but they are all combined. And most of the time, teams need a little bit of everything, not just pure team coaching. And the AC model, I want to share with you, this is another competency model, the third one available that I am familiar with. I know there may be more, but these are the 3 main or the 3 bigger coaching professional bodies worldwide. But they have 11 competencies. Meet ethical and professional practice guidelines, establishing the coaching agreement, establishing trust in the relationship with the client, coach presence and self-management working with teams, effective communications, awareness and insight raising, live team coaching, that is working that's similar to the team coaching process, maintaining progress in team coaching, working with organizational system, team knowledge and how the team learns, and coach professional development. As you can see, there are many similarities into these three models. Stop sharing. And it's a lot of information. My goal is just for you to hear some of the titles, just to get a sense of what are these competencies, what team coaches should be demonstrating, and how supervisors of team coaches need to be familiar with these models and the competencies so they have conversations in this context. So let's hear from a couple of people, and then we will go to small groups to have a conversation and discussion about your reactions to what we have heard so far. Any questions, comments, reactions, observations?
I just got one question about the measurement of effectiveness of supervision. And one of the competencies, one of the groups of competencies, the EMCC one, I think mentioned it.
Yeah, so Carol, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, just how will we measure that? It is quite difficult with a team. I mean, obviously they will have goals and you can measure, but the supervision, how you measure the supervision seems to be quite complex. So I was just interested. I don't have any answers. I just have the question.
That's a great question. And that has been the position for a while. I think that ICF is changing now what the ICF is saying. When there is not proof that supervision works. So because there is not proof, why we're going to make something mandatory that it is not proof. But for many years, there was not proof that coaching works either. No. So you have to start somewhere. But that's a good question. It's how we can, and I believe, Carol, that there is research that needs to be done about that. So I think that over time we will get more and more responses to this question. How do we measure success? And then sometimes difference between coaching and supervision. In coaching, there are measurable goals, and the client may or may not accomplish the goals that they have for coaching. In supervision, the goal is the reflective space. It's more focused on the process than in goals. So how do you measure the quality of that reflective space? Because there are not specific goals.
Very
but that's a good
interesting
question to reflect on.
Yeah.
But that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and you have a question, and then we're going to go to small groups so people can exchange some reactions.
I suppose it was building on what Carol said, actually. It was more about how do we measure failure as well in supervision? Because for me, there's an internal struggle between team supervision or team coaching and group supervision and group coaching. Because with a team, these people are going to go on and be meeting afterwards. And unless the contracting is very much agreed up front, it could evoke a lot of material that the team don't actually maybe know how to manage in the space when the coach or the supervisors are not there. So I think that difference between team coaching and team supervision and group coaching and group supervision needs to be explored. For me, it needs to be explored a bit.
Yeah, so just briefly, because that's part of the goal for this session. So the idea is that in group supervision, people who are coming to group, most of the time may or may not be part of the same organization.
Yeah.
And that is something that I also, with Lily Cito, we have a group supervision training where we train group supervisors, particularly on group supervision. And most of the time, when you have a group, people who are coming to the group, and I'm seeing here Kimberly, who's a graduate from that program, maybe you can also help me, Kimberly, to answer. But the idea is that you have different people, different coaches, who bring their cases to supervision. Instead of doing it one-on-one, they do it in a group format. So they can learn from each other and from their experiences. In team coaching, it's different because the team coach is working with a team and is bringing the unique complexities of being a team coach, working with a team. And there is, you're talking about the contracting, how they're going to be working. And one very interesting difference is the relationship with the leader. And this is very different and unique. how they are going to be contracting in terms of the leader of the team to collaborate with the external team coach that is coming to join the team to support the team in their learning and growth. Okay, so that will be the team coach supervisor working with a team coach, working with a team, supporting the team to learn and grow. So there are different activities with different goals. Now there is a possibility too that you do a group where the participant, instead of being individual supervisors, are supervisors of teams. What is very rich because people bring their own cases working with teams and share experiences, and everybody learn from each other about how to work with a team as a team coach. So the goals are different. The cases are different. The experiences are different and require different skills. It's different for a team coach supervisor. You need to have experience in teams, being a team coach. You cannot do team coaching supervision if you have not been a team coach first. And it's complex, what makes it really interesting. Very complex. So, and particularly if you work with a co-coach, what is really a good idea for working with teams that bring another complexity. In some way, it helps the job to be more effective working with team, but at the same time, bring complexity about the relationship between the team coaches, what is really interesting too. Thank you for the question. It's a great question, and for us to keep thinking about it. So we may not answer to the end, but at least to keep having some clarity. So Nicola, will you help me to put groups of maybe 4 or 5 groups? So people to go to small groups for 15 minutes. Yeah. And I want to invite you to introduce yourself so you get to know colleagues. This is one of our goals here, that you get to meet other people. And then share what are your observations, reactions, questions, and so you can have a conversation around group about the team coaching supervision.
That's super. I shall open up the rooms and I shall see you in 15 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, welcome back. So I was looking at the people's introductions. If you didn't have a chance to do that, you can go look now for a minute to see that you have people from all over the world, which is really cool, like from Europe, Africa, Cape Town, also Cape Town, and the US. So great to have all of you here. So let's hear from what happened in your small groups. Who would like to share? Somebody that we have not heard yet.
We actually discussed the impact or influence of pair work when you work as the supervisor or as you work as a team coach in pairs. What kind of impact it has? It has on you. That was like, or on cooperation, or on a team, or a group of supervisees. And the second aspect, which is pretty interesting as well, how much does team coaching competences cover the situation for internal team coaches? Because that's a little bit different layer of work, I would say. And there are, especially in the United States, there are a lot of internal executive coaches, team coaches, and as well supervisors, Damian, you know, because you educated a few. And I think that the competences should mirror that as well. And I don't feel that they mirror everything in this
that's
aspect.
A good point. It's a good point. And I think that as we evolve in the field, I think that these competency models also evolve. Like I agree that some aspects are missing, and particularly around internal supervision and internal coaching is different than when you work externally. So what are the unique variables that you need to pay attention? So what is interesting, what I really like about my work is that it doesn't matter you work as a coach or as a supervisor, you're working in developing awareness. So our work is for people to accomplish whatever goals they have, but a key element is higher level of awareness. So how we create higher level of awareness for our clients or supervisees. And in the process of creating higher level of awareness, if we have blind spots, we cannot do that. So we always all the time need to be looking at, okay, what are my blind spots? What is I not seen? And do you know what? Doesn't matter how much experience you have. You can be a brand new coach or a very experienced coach, or a new supervisor, or a very experienced supervisor, and there are always going to be blind spots. So that's the reason I work with 2 supervisors. I work with Tatiana Bashkirova, some of you know her, And in the past, I worked with Peter Hawkins because we always need to see what we are missing. And this, what you're bringing, Inga, is a good question to ask ourselves as coaches or as supervisors, what we may be missing. And by the way, we just came out with a team of experienced supervisors with an article about supervision of supervision. Because supervisors, we also need supervision. And what is unique and different about supervision of supervision. So if you look at the AC magazine, in the last newsletter, we wrote an article about supervision of supervision. So John, what happened in your group?
Good evening. So Bruno, Anne, and I, we kind of had a shared experience in that we have limited experience, I think, with team coaching. Mm-hmm. So what we discussed was how we, I suppose, and Anne or Bruno can jump in here and chime in, is how we differentiate team coaching and facilitation. And also, where do you start with team coaching? Is it with the individual, or do you start with talking to the team for 15 minutes, as Anne said, and understanding a baseline? Or how do you start the team coaching journey? And what is an ideal coach journey looking like from a team point of view, but also from a team coach point of view?
Great questions. Great questions. We need probably another session to discuss that. I will answer really fast, but I will point about resources. For people who do not have a lot of experience in team coaching, personally, there are two resources that I use to train team coaches. One is the Team Coaching at Work from Clutterbuck. You know, David Clutterbuck was one of the EMCC founders. So I think that this is a great resource, coaching the team at work. I think this is a great place where you answer all of these questions that you're having. And there are two editions. This is the newest edition. So I use this to train team coaches. Also, Peter Hawkins has a lot of different books and publications. Leadership, team coaching. This is not the latest edition. This is edition 3. I think there is an edition 4 that came up last year. So Peter Hawkins, leadership, team coaching, Clutterbuck. These are, and there are more, but these are two good places to start to answer some of these questions. But in terms of contracting, something, John, that I can tell you that most of the time when you work with a team, somebody going to be reaching out to you that will be a sponsor, somebody in HR or somebody else. So as a team coach, you need to start contracting with a person who is reaching out to you. Sometimes it can be the team leader. Interestingly, sometimes the team leader is very supportive, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the team leader may feel threatened by the team coach. So it's like you need to pay attention to variables to build these relationships. So you start with a sponsor, whoever contacts you to do the work. Then you need to build a relationship with a team leader to find out how you're going to be working and what is expected. And then a good practice, when it's possible, is to interview each participant of the team. So by the time that you meet the team, you already started building relationships one-on-one. Now, sometimes that is not possible. You don't have the time, you don't have the resources. It's not possible. So when that's not possible, you do some kind of activity where you get to meet them all together at the same time. But as best practices, these will be best practices. Having the team coach meeting with a sponsor, meeting with a leader, meeting sometimes with the boss of the leader of the team, if it is appropriate. So you see there is complexity here. Interview each team member when it's possible. So all of this help. And most of the time, we may use some kind of tool to measure the team effectiveness. Personally, my personal preference is to do simple things, not very sophisticated tools. There are many in the market, many different tools, instruments to measure team success and team effectiveness. You may use some of them, great. I may just do a survey, like asking every team member to show what do you think are your strengths of the team? What do you think you can be more effective as a team? And what do you suggest? What do you think you should be doing? So then I use all of that information to start the process as a possibility. And there are many different ways to do that. So this is one of the ways you may consider doing it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for the question. I think we had time for one more group. Anybody else would like to share what you discussed, what came up in your small groups discussions? Great.
I'm going to put my hand up on behalf of my group,
Okay.
which was Arun, Anushli, and Nabe.
Okay.
I hope I said that right. Yes. Anabe. So given your wisdom and length of time in the industry, do you foresee, like, how would someone who's already committed to one-to-one supervision also now balance potential requirements for team coaching supervision? Like, you know, when you already have a working supervisory relationship, how would you recommend people do that from your experience also training coaches and supervisors?
Well, some of the supervisors, because they're experienced coaches, may or may not have team coaching experience. So if they do have some experience, it will be great. If they don't, they may not be able to support you in the reflection on your learning about the team coach. So you may want to later to go and work with a team coach supervisor who has the distinctions to support you in developing and growing and learning as a team coach. So you may or may not work with the same person. Ideally, you may want to work with the same person, but if your supervisor is not familiar with teamwork, you may need to work with somebody else. Yeah, as a possibility. Okay, unfortunately, we need to stop here. I know I shared a lot of material, a lot of information with the 3 competency model, so it can be a little bit overwhelming in all of that. But my goal was for you to know that these 3 documents were available, so you can go later, spend some time going over them. In the chat room, I'm going to share with you the EMCC competency model. I think it's important. That's a good place to start. So I am going to be sharing a link where you can download that document. So here, everybody, if you press that link, you may have access to the EMCC document that present team coaching and all of the elements of team coaching, but I do believe you can get value from that. Then also, I'm going to share briefly a couple of other resources. The America's Coaching Supervision Network, we meet every month for 1 hour and 1 hour. It's 1 hour. And thank you, Nicola, for sharing my information for people if you want to contact me through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. In YouTube, I have 300 videos.
Really?
And in half an in Spanish, though, sorry. I do a lot of work in Latin America in Spanish. But for people who are bilingual, I know some of you speak Spanish, you have access. If you're bilingual, speak Spanish and English. There are 300, if not, there are 150 in Spanish, 150 in English, and they're all classes that I have been doing for the last 10 years. So there you can get resources about supervision, coaching, team coaching, keynotes at conferences, and a lot of different good resources. And demonstrations of coaching, demonstrations of supervision. And the American Coaching Supervision Network link that I share here with you, these are monthly free sessions. They're for free. They are different topics around coaching supervision. And next week, we have one session on team coaching supervision too. So you may want to join us to hear other colleagues, 2 other colleagues, to talk about team coaching supervision. You want to keep talking about that and learning about that. It's for free. It's once a month. And if you go to that link, you will also get access to the 50 videos that we have on supervision. So I don't think you would find anywhere in the world a place where you can go and learn about coaching supervision. You have 50 webinars with top presenters, including Peter Hawkins, Tatiana Baskirova, Eve Turner. All of them have come and do sessions for us over the years. So you have free sessions on different topics around coaching supervision. I do believe that that's a great resource for everyone. Nicola shared with you all of my social media outlets. So if you want to also contact me, I will add my email. Just if you have any questions, as I was sharing before, we train supervisors. We're starting a new supervision program in September. We also train group supervisors for people already supervisors. So people here, the supervisors who are today that are interested in becoming group supervisors and will develop more skills on that. That's another program that I do with Lily Zero, and we're starting that in September too. Also, we have a team coaching for people who are interested in becoming team coaches. If you don't have that expertise, we're starting a program in October. So these are all different possibilities available. And I am a resource for everyone. If you have any questions about all of this, I'm happy to answer. I do believe that we all can support us and collaborate to make this profession stronger. And we need all working together on this. So, Nicole, I really appreciate you inviting me.
It's been wonderful. As always, Damian, you enrich us. You really do. And as you were talking about your YouTube channel and the website, I was thinking, well, it's like a sweet box, isn't it, of all this stuff, which would be absolutely so useful for everybody. And thank you for, you know, giving everybody permission to reach out to you as well, because I know that you're always interested in learning more yourself and getting more evidence and more interest and more challenging, challenging different paradigms and conversations and just enriching. So that's been wonderful. I think it's how you've led this session as well. So can I just say thank you very much on behalf of the EMCC for bringing your wonderful experience to us again. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. I added 2 links in case that you're interested in any of the programs. There are 2 links about the supervision program and the group supervision program. And also I have a newsletter every month where we come up with different blogs on different topics. So you may be interested in the blog and learning and interacting and also sharing information. So I put the link to my newsletter if you're curious to see more about how I'm thinking about some issues happening in the world, and also activities coming up and videos from past experiences. So what I do in my newsletter, I record the sessions of our activities, and they are available as resources for people interested in watching what happened